Welcome to the world of sci-fi stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. Another day, another primitive planet to subjugate. Commander Vex Thorn sighed, flicking through the holographic display. With his third appendage, remind me again why we're wasting resources on this watery mudball fleet. Admiral Krogg shot him a withering look that would have melted as steel. Her 6 eyes, each a different shade of amber, narrowed simultaneously. Because, Commander, our resources aren't infinite, and the Sovereign Council specifically ordered us to acquire 10 new resource planets this cycle. She gestured dramatically toward the blue-green sphere rotating in the central projection, is target number 9. The war room of the Federation, dread not inevitable conquest, hummed with the quiet efficiency of a civilization that had dominated 3 galactic quadrants around the strategic table. 7 high-ranking Argon officers lounged in their gravity-cushioned seats. None looked particularly concerned. Earth science Officer Plexnro announced, pronouncing the word like he was discussing something stuck to the bottom of his boot. Populated by bipedal mammals, calling themselves humans. Technology level pre-warp military capability laughable. They're still fighting with chemical propellants and primitive atomic weapons. The room erupted in what passed for laughter among the Argon, a wheezing clicking sound that always reminded Barova of dying ventilation systems. What's their most advanced combat vehicle? Some kind of primitive hover tank, asked Tactical Officer Jenza Blackwing, barely looking up from her claw grooming. No, even better. Narrow could barely contain his amusement. They drive around in track vehicles with metal plating that are standard hand weapons could pierce, and their aircraft subsonic in atmosphere with no shielding whatsoever. Barova clicked her mandibles in satisfaction. Perfect. Their planet has abundant water minerals and biological diversity. The Sovereign Council will be pleased with such a productive acquisition. Any notable resistance capabilities? Vex asked, more out of protocol than actual concern. Nothing worth mentioning, Nero replied, flipping to another screen. They're divided into roughly 200 countries that can't stop squabbling among themselves. Their global communication network is primitive and completely unsecured. We've been monitoring their transmissions for 3 cycles. Now they spend more time arguing about trivial matters than preparing for any external threat. So standard subjugation protocol. Then up, Barova asked, already knowing the answer. Absolutely. Nero confirmed. A single battle group should be sufficient. No need for the full invasion fleet. We'd be drinking their oceans dry within a standard rotation. Perfect. Barova stood, her exoskeleton clicking as she stretched to her full height. I'll inform the Sovereign Council that Earth will be processed and added to our resource inventory by the end of this cycle. Prepare the 7th battle group for immediate deployment. As the officers filed out, none of them noticed the small alert flashing in the corner of Nero's display, an anomalous energy signature that didn't match any known human technology. After all, why pay attention to such details when dealing with primitives? The Argon Federation had conquered 342 species across 3 galactic quadrants. Humans would simply be number 343 or so, they thought. Initial reconnaissance and underestimation of humans. Scout Captain Lorna K. hated reconnaissance missions, especially ones involving primitive species. They were always so messy. Status report, she barked, stalking across the bridge of the cloaked scout vessel. Silent observer, her 4-jointed legs clicked rhythmically against the metallic floor, all sensor arrays functioning at optimal capacity. Captain reported. Tez Bragger, sensor officer, were maintaining geosynchronous orbit above their largest ocean. No indication they've detected our presence, of course. They haven't. Kick snorted. Their detection technology is barely good enough to track their own primitive satellites. The main view screen displayed a real-time feed of Earth's surface, specifically a densely populated coastal city brimming with towering structures. New York. They called it. The humans moved like ants below, completely unaware of the predators watching from above. Begin Phase 1 reconnaissance. Deploy observation drones to primary target sites. Keeks ordered, settling into her command chair. Focus on military installations, power generation facilities, and communication hubs. Deploying drones now. Captain confirmed. Drone officer Micah zed his 8 fingers dancing across the control panel. Within moments, 20 sleek insect-sized drones detached from the silent observer and streaked toward Earth's atmosphere. Each was equipped with adaptive camouflage and sophisticated scanning technology capable of penetrating any known barrier. "This is hardly worth my time," Kix muttered. The briefing data made it clear these humans are barely out of their stone age, but Captain interjected cultural specialist Dax read their technological development curve is unusually steep. They went from primitive flight to rudimentary space travel, and less than 100 of their years. Hicks dismissed this with a flick of her secondary appendage relevant. They're still using combustion engines and silicon-based computing. It's like watching infants play with blocks. The bridge crew chuckled dutifully at their captain's wit drone. Feeds coming online now, announced Zed. The main screen split into 27 separate feeds. Each drone had positioned itself strategically, hovering outside military command centers, power plants, and government buildings. "Look at their security measures," Tactical Officer Ren Jax laughed, pointing at one feed showing armed humans guarding a facility, projectile weapons, and not even energy accelerated ones, just chemical propellants pushing metal slugs. "How quaint." Scanned their communications case. Ordered, leaning forward. "Let's see what these mammals discuss when they think no one's listening." For the next several hours, the crew of the Silent Observer monitored human activities with increasing amusement. They intercepted military communications, hacked into secured networks with embarrassing ease, and compiled detailed reports on Earth's defenses. "Their most advanced weapons system appears to be something called Aegis," reported Jax, scrolling through intercepted data. "It's designed to intercept incoming missiles, primitive ballistic projectiles. They fire at each other, nothing capable of detecting, much less stopping our attack craft." "And their nuclear arsenal," Kix inquired, more out of procedural thoroughness than concern. "Primitive fishing and fusion devices. No quantum warheads, no antimatter capabilities. Their delivery systems are laughably slow and detectable," Jax replied confidently. "Our standard shield would absorb such attacks without even registering energy fluctuations." Kix nodded, satisfied. "Compile the reconnaissance data and prepare it for transmission to the invasion fleet. Add my personal assessment. Earth represents no significant military challenge and can be subjugated using standard protocols." As the crew worked, Drawn 17 captured footage of a human laboratory where scientists huddled around a strange device emitting readings that momentarily confused the drone sensors. The anomaly was automatically flagged for review, but in the flood of incoming data, the alert was deprioritized and eventually archived without human examination. After all, what could primitives possibly create that would warrant special attention from the mighty Argon Federation? "Reconnaissance complete," Caius announced. "Inform Admiral Barova that Earth is ripe for the taking. First contact and disastrous invasion attempt begin." Broadcast of the subjugation declaration. Admiral Barova commanded, her voice echoing through the bridge of the inevitable conquest. "Let these primitive mammals understand the futility of resistance before we vaporize their major cities." Communications Officer Trellwraith nodded, his elongated fingers activating the broadcast systems, transmitting on all Earth frequencies. "Admiral, their primitive devices will be overwhelmed by our signal cross Earth. Every electronic device capable of receiving transmissions, televisions, radios, cell phones, computers, suddenly displayed the same message." The Argon Federation's insignia, a spiral galaxy clenched in a 6-fingered claw, appeared, followed by Admiral Byrne, Noah's intimidating visage. "Humans of Earth," she began, her translator converting her clicking speech into the planet's dominant languages. "Your planet now belongs to the Argon Federation. Surrender immediately, and you will be permitted to serve as labor, resist, and face extinction. You have 1 Earth hour to comply. That ought to send them into panic." Commander Vex chuckled, watching the real-time feeds from Earth's major cities. "Look at them scrambling like vermin." Indeed, the streets of cities worldwide filled with confused, frightened humans. Military bases went on high alert. Government officials rushed to emergency bunkers, detecting multiple launch signatures, reported Tactical Officer Genza. "They're firing their primitive nuclear missiles at us." She couldn't hide her amusement. "How adorable." Barova clicked her mandibles in what passed for an Argon smile. Activate perimeter shields, let them waste their most powerful weapons, while we watch the missiles launched by several human nations simultaneously streak toward the Argon fleet. Upon contact with the alien shields, they detonated in brilliant flashes that briefly illuminated the vessel's shield. Impact registered at 0.002%. Genza reported, hardly enough to register. Excellent. Barovan nodded. The hour was a courtesy they didn't deserve anyway. Begin the first wave assault. Target their major military installations and governmental centers. The 20 attack craft detached from the inevitable conquest, streaking toward Earth's atmosphere. Each carried enough firepower to level a small city. To attack vessels entering atmosphere in 3, 2, 1. Genza counted down, watching her tactical display. Suddenly alarms blared across the bridge. What's happening? Barova demanded, rising from her command chair. Attack craft Alpha through hotel reporting energy anomalies. Jen's voice rose in confusion. They're detecting some kind of field interference with their navigation systems. Impossible. Science Officer Nero protested. Their technology can't possibly. His words were cut short as the tactical display showed 3 attack craft winking out of existence. We've lost contact with Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Genza shouted, real fear in her voice. For the first time they've been destroyed by what? Barova roared, her exoskeleton flaring in rage. Before anyone could respond, the remaining attack craft began reporting similar anomalies. One by one, they vanished from tactical displays. Admiral Communications Officer Wraith called out, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it through. Barova ordered, her voice deadly quiet. The main view screen shifted to show a female human in a military uniform, her expression calm but resolute. Federation vessels, she began, her voice steady. This is General Rebecca Winters of the United Earth Defense Coalition. Your attack has been neutralized. Your declaration of ownership is rejected. You have 1 Earth hour to leave our solar system, or we will consider your presence an ongoing act of war and respond accordingly. Stunned silence fell across the bridge. How Vex finally managed? How did primitives destroy our attack craft? As if in answer, sensors detected unusual energy signatures emanating from previously unidentified orbital platforms around Earth. Admiral Nero whispered, his voice shaking, I believe we've made a terrible miscalculation. Barova stared at the human general on screen, fury and disbelief wearing in her expression. This changes nothing. Prepare the main fleet for immediate deployment. We will obliterate these insolent mammals from existence. But even as she gave the order, a seed of doubt had been planted. What other surprises did these primitives have in store? Humans' unexpected technological adaptations. Explain to me. Admiral Barova hissed, her voice dangerously low. How a pre-warp civilization managed to destroy 20 of our most advanced attack craft without so much as breaking a sweat. The command staff of the inevitable conquest sat in uncomfortable silence. No one wanted to be the first to speak. Science Officer Nero finally cleared his throat. Admiral, I've analyzed the censored data from the destroyed vessels. The humans appear to have developed some form of targeted phase disrupt technology. That's impossible. Tactical Officer Genza protested. Phase disruption requires a fundamental understanding of quantum field mechanics. These primitives were using vacuum tubes less than a century ago. Nevertheless, Nero continued, displaying the analysis on the main screen. That's what destroyed our ships. They created localized fields that essentially unraveled the molecular bonds of our hulls. The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. It gets worse. Nero added hesitantly, we've detected unusual energy signatures from several points on Earth's surface, and in their orbit, they appear to be some form of gravitational manipulation technology. How Commander Vex demanded their scientific publications show no understanding of unified field theory. That's what makes this so concerning. Nero replied, either they've been deliberately publishing misleading scientific data, or they've made a technological leap that should have taken centuries. Barova finished grimly. Admiral Communications Officer Wraith interrupted, we're intercepting massive amounts of encrypted communications between human military bases. Our decryption algorithms can't break their codes. At Dynam recodes Vova's 6 eyes blinked in succession, a sign of extreme stress. Organs show me everything we know about their sudden technological capabilities, everything. The strategic display activated, showing various Earth locations with unusual energy signatures. This facility in what they call Nevada was previously identified as a minor research installation, Nero explained now. It's emitting energy readings consistent with antimatter production. This submarine base in the Pacific Ocean. Genza pointed to another location, has deployed vessels emitting no thermal signature whatsoever. They're completely invisible to standard detection methods and their orbital platforms. Nero continued, highlighting several points in Earth orbit appear to be equipped with directed energy weapons, far beyond what their public space program suggests they should possess. Could they have reverse-engineered technology from another space faring race? Vex suggested perhaps the Zenui made contact. Before us, Nero shook his head. No Zeri signatures detected this technology. It is unique. It doesn't match any known civilization in our database, Admiral. Intelligence Officer Mara Swift interjected, I believe I found something. She manipulated the display to show historical records from Earth. Approximately 70 of their years ago, humans detected an anomalous object in their solar system. They called it official records classified it as an interstellar asteroid, but what Barova demanded, but classified communications we've intercepted suggest they recovered something from it. Something that dramatically accelerated their technological development. You're suggesting these mammals found advanced technology and not only understood it but adapted it for their own use. Genza scoffed. That's preposterous. Most species take generations to comprehend discovered technology. There's more. Swift continued, ignoring the interruption. Human entertainment media, what they call science fiction, has been theorizing about technologies remarkably similar to our own for over a century, and they've been mentally preparing for contact with advanced civilizations, imagining technologies they hadn't yet developed. So when they found actual advanced technology, Nero began, they already had the theoretical frameworks to understand it. Swift finish. They didn't have to overcome the conceptual barriers most species face. That's not all. Nero added grimly. Human brains appear uniquely adaptable. Their neuroplasticity exceeds any species we've encountered. They form new neural pathways at rates that should be biologically impossible. Barova paced the command deck, her exoskeleton clicking in agitation. So you're telling me we're not facing primitive mammals fumbling with rudimentary technology. We're facing highly adaptable, conceptually prepared beings who've made technological leaps that should have taken centuries. Yes, Admiral Nero confirmed. And based on energy readings, they're rapidly deploying these technologies globally. Every hour that passes, their defensive and offensive capabilities grow stronger. We've awakened something we don't understand. Vex murmured, a note of genuine fear in his voice. Silence. Barova snapped. The Argon Federation has never retreated, never surrendered. We will adapt our strategy and crush these upstart mammals, regardless of their stolen technology. But even as she spoke, the tactical display updated with new human defense systems coming online across the planet. The window for easy conquest was closing rapidly. The Federation's confusion and regrouping. The Sovereign Council demands answers. Admiral, the holographic projection of Grand Counselor Vorax Deadstone loomed over the command deck, his massive head and 8 glowing eyes radiating fury. How does the mighty Argon Federation find itself in retreat from a species that hasn't even achieved warp capability? Admiral Barova stood rigidly at attention, her exoskeleton pulled tight against her body in the traditional posture of submission. Counselor, we grossly underestimated the human technological adaptability. They've somehow, spare me your excuses. Ted Stone's holographic fist smashed into an equally holographic table, yet everyone on the bridge flinched. 342 species across 3 galactic quadrants have fallen before us, and you're telling me these mammals have you running with your tail between your legs? The situation is temporary, Counselor Barova insisted, mandibles clicking nervously. We're regrouping, analyzing their capabilities, formulating a new strategy. See that you do. Deadstone growled. The second and third fleets are being diverted to your position. You'll have over 300 vessels at your disposal, enough firepower to crack That miserable planet in half if necessary. Thank you, Counselor, we won't fail, you already have Admiral. But the Argon Federation does not accept failure. Fix this, or don't bother returning. The hologram winked out of existence. The bridge remained silent for several moments. Well, Commander Vex finally said. That went about as well as could be expected. Barova turned to her staff, fury radiating from every pore. I want solutions now. How do we neutralize these humans? Science Officer Nero stepped forward hesitantly. Admiral, we've been analyzing the human defense systems. They appear to have focused on countering our specific technologies. Meaning what exactly? Meaning they studied us as thoroughly as we thought we'd studied them. Their phase disruption fields are precisely calibrated to our hull compositions. Their communication countermeasures target our specific frequencies. It's unsettling. How could they possibly have acquired such specific information? Genza demanded. Admiral Intelligence Officer Swift interjected. Our reconnaissance drones, several went missing during the initial survey. We assumed they malfunctioned, but the humans captured them. Barova finished. Realization dawning in reverse. Engineered them, just like they did with that interstellar object. So they know our weaknesses, Vex said grimly. But we still outnumber and outgun them once the reinforcement fleets arrive. Once the reinforcement fleets arrive, we'll face the same problems, just on a larger scale. Barova interrupted. No. We need something they won't expect, something they couldn't have learned from our technology. She turned to her officers, a dangerous glint in all six of her eyes. It's time we showed these mammals why the Argon Federation has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Second invasion attempt and total failure. All vessels in attack formation, Commander Vex announced as the combined Argon Armada, now over 300 ship strong, arranged itself in the traditional sphere of conquest formation. The second and third fleets are in position and awaiting your command. Admiral Barova stood on the command deck of the inevitable conquest, her posture rigid with determination. This time, there would be no failure. This time, the humans would learn why species across 3 galactic quadrants trembled at the mention of the Argon Federation. That deploy the phase shift generators, she ordered. If the humans can disrupt our molecular structure, we'll simply shift out of their targeting range. Phase shift generators active. Admiral Tactical Officer Genza confirmed. All ships are cycling through quantum frequencies at randomized intervals. Their weapons won't be able to lock on, and the psychic dampeners operational. Science Officer Nero reported. If these mammals have somehow developed mind-affecting weapons, they'll find only static. Milva nodded, satisfied. Begin the assault. Target their orbital platforms first, then their ground-based defense systems. Once those are neutralized, deploy the atmospheric scrubbers. I want these mammals gasping for breath before we even set foot on their miserable planet. Commencing attack. Now Admiral Vex confirmed. The massive fleet surged forward. Weapon systems powering up simultaneously. Energy weapons of devastating power capable of vaporizing entire cities. Locked onto Earth's orbital defense platforms. Firing in 3, 2, 1. Genza counted down. Hundreds of energy beams lancing toward Earth simultaneously, a display of firepower that had broken the will of countless civilizations before first contact had even been properly reestablished. But instead of striking their targets, the beams simply vanished midway between the Argon fleet and Earth's orbit. The deadly energy disappeared, as if it had never existed. What? Barova roared. Explanation. Now some kind of energy absorption field, Nero stammered, frantically analyzing sensor data. They've created a shell around their planet that's absorbing our weapon fire. Impossible. The energy requirements for such a shield would be. Admiral Genza interrupted, real panic in her voice. The absorbed energy is being redirected. They're using our own weapons fire against us. Before anyone could react, brilliant beams of concentrated energy, the very same energy the Argon fleet had just fired, shot back toward the attacking vessels. Despite their shields, despite their advanced technology, dozens of ships erupted in spectacular explosions. Evasive maneuvers, Barova shrieked. All vessels break formation, scatter. But it was too late. The humans had anticipated this tactic, as well as the Argon vessels attempted to break formation. Hundreds of smaller craft previously undetected, emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. Where did those come from? Vex demanded, watching in horror as the small human vessels swarmed the Argon fleet. Like angry insects, our sensors detected nothing. Some kind of stealth technology, Nero observed, his scientific curiosity somehow intact despite the chaos. Fascinating, really fascinating, Barova snarled. Our fleet is being decimated, and you find it fascinating indeed. The battle, if it could even be called that, was rapidly becoming a rout. The human vessels moved with impossible agility, targeting specific vulnerabilities in the Argon ships. More alarmingly, they seemed to be communicating and coordinating their attacks with the speed that defied explanation. Admiral Communications Officer Wraith reported, "We receiving thousands of transmissions between the human vessels. They're communicating faster than our systems can intercept and translate. It's as if what Barova demanded, as if they're sharing a hive mind." Wraith finished, awing his voice, but not forced like the Zendua collective. "This is voluntary." Instantaneous on the tactical display, more Argon ships winked out of existence. The mighty Armada, pride of the Federation, was being systematically dismantled by a species that, according to all intelligence, should have been cowering in terror. Admiral Beck said quietly, "We've lost over half the fleet. The remainder are reporting critical systems failures. These humans, they're not just defeating us, they're humiliating us." Barova stared at the tactical display, watching as her command crumbled around her. For the first time in her long distinguished career, she spoke the words no Argon military leader had uttered in 10,000 years. "Prepare to retreat. Humanity going on the offensive. This is unprecedented." Grand Counselor Deadstone whispered, his usual thunderous voice reduced to a shocked murmur. The Sovereign Council chamber, normally a place of confident declarations and strategic plotting, had fallen into stunned silence as they watched the battle footage from Earth. Two-thirds of our combined fleet destroyed. Council strategist Mech Shadowban summarize unnecessarily, with the rest in retreat. No Argon military force has suffered such a defeat in recorded history. The 7 members of the Sovereign Council sat in their ornate chairs, facing the holographic display that showed the remnants of their once proud armada fleeing Earth's solar system. Most disturbing were the small human vessels pursuing them, picking off stragglers with surgical precision. "They're not just defending counselors," Lax Void Razor observed. "They're hunting." Admiral Barover requests permission to regroup at Outpost Station Gamma 9, reported the communications officer. "She believes the humans lack FTL capability and won't be able to pursue beyond our nearest forward base." Deadstone's laugh was hollow, and she also believed they were primitive mammals who would surrender at first contact or assessment means. "Nothing now," Counselor Voidriser interjected. "With all due respect, we should." Whatever strategic suggestion he intended to offer was cut short as alarms blared throughout the chamber. The holographic display shifted to show the space around their home world, Argus Prime. "What now?" Deadstone demanded. "Sun-known vessels appearing in system," the tactical officer reported, panic evident in his voice. They're everywhere indeed." Spatial ruptures were opening throughout the Argon home system, and from each emerged sleek vessels of unmistakably human design, hundreds of them appearing simultaneously in perfect formation. How Deadstone rode, rising from his chair. "They can't possibly have FTL capability, let alone the ability to calculate a precision jump into our home system. It's worse than that, Counselor," the science officer reported grimly. "Those aren't standard FTL signatures. They're not using hyperspace tunnels or warp bubbles. They're using folded space. Impossible folded space travel is theoretical. Even our best scientists haven't." "The humans are hailing us," the communications officer interrupted. "System-wide broadcast." Deadstone hesitated, and only briefly put it through. The central hologram shifted to show a human male in a simple dark uniform. Unlike most conquered species, he showed no fear, no deference, only calm determination. "Argon Federation," he began without preamble, "I am Admiral Thomas Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Your unprovoked attack on our world constitutes an act of war, a war you are now losing." Deadstone bristled, but said nothing. "We have analyzed your civilization thoroughly." Chen continued, your strengths, your weaknesses, your history of subjugating other species, your practice of stripping conquered worlds of resources until they're uninhabitable husks. How dare Deadstone began, but Chen spoke over him. As if he hadn't heard the interruption, we have deployed fleets to every major world in your federation. Each carries weapons calibrated specifically to your defenses. Each is capable of rendering your planets uninhabitable within hours, just as you have done to so many others. The tactical display updated, showing human vessels taking position around not just Argus Prime, but every major Argon colony world. Somehow, impossibly, they have deployed forces across 3 galactic quadrants simultaneously. But unlike you, Chen continued, we don't desire genocide. We don't seek to strip your worlds or enslave your people. We offer terms. And you did. Gasp echoed through the council chamber. No species had ever been in position to dictate terms to the Argon Federation. First, immediate emancipation of all subjugated species under your control. Second, reparations to those species whose worlds you've destroyed. Third, dismantling of your military capacity beyond what's needed for basic planetary defense. Chen's expression remained neutral, but his tone hardened slightly. You have 1 Earth hour to reply. After that, we start dismantling your civilization piece by piece. I suggest you use the time wisely. The transmission cut off, leaving the council chamber in shocked silence. They're bluffing, Void Riser finally said, though his voice lacked conviction. They can't possibly have the firepower to back up such threats, can't they? Asked strategist Shadow Bane, studying the tactical display. Look at these energy readings. Each of those vessels carries more firepower than our dreadnoughts. How Deadstone demanded for the second time that day. How has this happened? How have these mammals not only defeated our attack, but turned the table so completely? I believe, offered Counselor Traz, quick mind, who had remained silent until now. We made a fundamental error in our assessment of humans. Explain. Deadstone demanded. O species we conquer fight to defend themselves out of simple survival instinct, but humans, quick Mindmend paused, searching for the right words. Humans appear to fight harder when defending others than when defending themselves, and when provoked they don't seek mere survival. They ensure such a threat can never arise again. You're suggesting we actually surrender? Void Razor asked incredulously. I'm suggesting, quick mind replied calmly, that for the first time in 10,000 years, the Argon Federation has met a species more dangerous than ourselves outside the human vessels. Maintained their perfect formation, weapons armed and ready, awaiting the Argon response with unfathomable patience. The document is prepared, Grand Counselor announced Secretary Pel Brequill, sliding the crystalline data tablet across the ornate table. Once you press your appendage to it, the surrender accord will be transmitted to all Federation worlds and to the human fleet. Grand Council Deadstone stared at the tablet as if it might suddenly sprout teeth and bite him. Never in the 10,000-year history of the Argon Federation had such a document been created, let alone signed. The concept of surrender was so foreign that they'd had to invent new words in their language just to draft the agreement. There must be another way, he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. There isn't, Counselor Quick M stated bluntly. The humans have disabled our weapons platforms across 17 major worlds. They've neutralized our fleet without destroying it, simply rendering our ships inoperable. They could have annihilated us already, but chose not to. That alone makes them unusual. With a resigned click of his mandibles, Deadstone pressed his primary appendage to the tablet. It glowed briefly, acknowledging the genetic signature of the Federation's supreme leader. It is done, he said quietly. The Argon Federation surrenders. As if on cue, a communication request chimed. The holographic display activated to show not Admiral Chen, but a female human in civilian attire. Grand Counselor, she began, with a respectful nod. I am Dur Leila Patel, xenoanthropologist, and head of the Human Argon Transition Team. Now that formal surrender has been accepted, I'd like to explain what happens next. You dictate our fate, Deadstone replied bitterly. What more is there to explain? Dr. Patel smiled, a gesture Argons recognized, but found unsettling. That's not our way, Counselor. We're not conquerors. We're here to establish a lasting peace. Yes, we'll oversee the liberation of subjugated species and the scaling back of your military capacity, but we have no intention of dismantling your civilization or governing your people." The council members exchanged confused glances. "But why?" asked Void Razor. "You have the power to destroy us, to take our resources, to enslave our people as we did to others. Why show restraint?" "Because that's what makes us human," Darpatul replied simply. "We've studied your history extensively." May stared extensively. "The Argon Federation began as refugees fleeing a dying star system, and you became conquerors because you believed the galaxy was fundamentally hostile, that only through domination could you ensure your survival." Several council members shifted uncomfortably at this accurate assessment of their cultural psychology. "Humans evolve differently," she continued. "We learned that cooperation, not domination, leads to greater survival. Yes, we can be terrifyingly effective warriors when threatened, as you've discovered, but our greatest strength isn't our capacity for violence, it's our capacity for compassion." Headstone Six Eyes blinked in succession, a sign of deep confusion. "You speak in contradictions. Human, your unprecedented military might doesn't align with this philosophy of compassion." Darpapel's smile widened. "That's the final lesson the Argon Federation needs to learn about humanity, Counselor. Our compassion and our strength aren't contradictory, they're complementary. We fight hardest for those who cannot fight for themselves, and we extend mercy even to those who wouldn't have shown it to us." She leaned forward slightly. "The galaxy doesn't have to be the hostile place you've always believed it to be. We're offering you something your civilization has never known, not subjugation, not exploitation, but partnership." As the implications of her words sank in, the Argon Council realized they weren't witnessing the end of their civilization, but rather its transformation, all because they had mistaken Earth for just another target.